Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Pragmach. Today I want to talk about how history sometimes repeats itself. The more time goes by, things seem to come back around. And sometimes it's with a little bit of changes. And what I'm talking about, of course, is the new Razer Blade 14. That is Razer's newest laptop, and it's interesting for two reasons. First, it brings back a legacy laptop size from Razer. They used to make a 14-inch laptop until it was discontinued a few years ago, so it's interesting to see Razer bring back that size again. And the other reason is it's being paired with an AMD Ryzen processor, and that is a very first for a Razer laptop. Beginning with the theme of the Razer Blade 14, it is light, thin, and powerful. At least that's what Razer thinks, and that's what Razer thinks its customers are demanding. And I do think in a lot of instances that's right. The Razer Blade 14 is being paired with the latest in RTX 30 series graphics all the way up to a 3080. And that's important because right now to get into those graphics cards, at least with a Razer laptop, you have to step up to the 15-inch Razer Blade, meaning that power brings heft with it. And that's what Razer is looking to resolve with the smaller 14-inch display size. And it might even represent that sweet spot between having a truly portable gaming laptop and a decent display to enjoy those games while you're playing them, keeping you both entertained and, of course, competitive. So much talk about its size. Let's just talk about the overall design. We can start with how thin it is at 0.66 inches or 16.8 millimeters. To give you a reference point, that's only 1.2 millimeters thicker than a MacBook Pro 13-inch. And of course, that MacBook Pro doesn't have a discrete Nvidia graphics card inside. So Razer is packing a lot of power in a very small design. And having a look at the display, there is reduced bezels along three sides. There is still a little bit of chin on that 14-inch display. However, for the most part, Razer has done a good job at reducing the bezel. There are two display resolutions available. There is a 1080p Full HD display as well as a 1440p or QHD display, with the higher resolution display coming with also a higher refresh rate of 164 Hz compared to the 144 Hz of the Full HD display. For internals, the Razer Blade 14 is powered by the AMD Ryzen 9 5900HX. That is an 8-core processor with 16 threads. For graphics choices, as I briefly mentioned before, there is RTX 30 series graphics cards, meaning there is the choice of 3060, 3070, and 3080 cards. When looking at the memory, this is where the Razer Blade 14 gets a little bit curious and might turn a few people off. It only comes with 16 gigabytes of RAM, and it is fixed on board, meaning it is not user upgradable. So all the thinness and all the compactness seems to have come at a price, and that has to be the choices of RAM. Although 16 gigabytes of RAM is more than enough for today, I don't know how future-proof a laptop like this could be when it's paired with such a powerful graphics card. However, we won't spend too much time on that. I just wanted to point that out, and 16 gigabytes of RAM is all you need to remember. Moving on to have a look at the ports, there are two USB Type-C ports, two USB Type-A's. There's of course a 3.5mm combo jack, and there is HDMI 2.1. Missing from the perfect port pack would be dedicated Ethernet and maybe an SD card reader. However, for the most part, a great set of ports. Having a look at battery life, Razer is promising up to 12 hours of use, and we should always be a little bit skeptical with whatever battery life we read, but 12 hours does sound extensive, and it'll be interesting to see what that might be like in the real world. And for an objective spec, it does have a 61.6 watt-hour battery. For connectivity, the laptop has Wi-Fi 6. For easy, secure, authenticated login, there is a 720p infrared camera available. Moving on to pricing, what you're gonna note is a pretty standard setup, with all of them having that AMD Ryzen 5900HX, 16 gigabytes of RAM, and 1 terabyte of SSD storage. Starting at the low end with the Razer Blade 14 paired with an RTX 3060, that's gonna start at $1799, and that will get you the 1080p display display. Stepping up for $400 will get you into the QHD 1440p 165Hz display, and it will get you the RTX 3070. For $27.99, you can get the best-in-class RTX 3080 Razer Blade 14, which in my opinion does stand out a little bit strangely with that 16 gigabytes of RAM, which are fixed on board, of course. As you can see, there is a full $1,000 range between the low end and the high end, and once you get past the display, there really isn't that much separating the low end and the high end other than that graphics card. And this is where it might look a little bit uneven depending on what configuration you're looking at, and the question of how important is portability. Because in this case, portability doesn't come just at a dollar cost, it also comes at a specification cost, meaning that you will be stuck with that 16 gigabytes of RAM for the lifespan of the laptop. And I do think that's less of an issue at the lower end, especially with an RTX 3060 pairing. The memory might not be that off base. And on that point, I say thank you, and thank you for listening to my thoughts. Do you think the thin profile is worth some of the trade-offs? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. As always, if you enjoyed this video, do give it a like, and if you've been enjoying a few videos, consider joining the channel. You might just like what's coming up next. As always, thank you from Pragmach.